So it says that from 2010 to 2014, there were about 100 channels created by members of the church. 2015 to 2019, there were about 200. And then 2020 to 2025, there are now more than 430 channels. If you include channels that criticize the church, there's more than 700 total channels about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's a space I don't know anything about. The growth of it, I wouldn't attribute the growth of it to Elder Bednar's talk. I would attribute
No.
the growth of it to technology that makes it
Yeah.
easier for people to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say there's two groups of people that listen to podcasts, which is going to shock nobody in our audience. There's the faithful core and the faithful alternative.
Which one are we, Matt?
As the cold winds of winter sweep in, there's nothing like the warmth of a comforting cup to help you slow down and unwind. This is the season. Let Postum be your cozy companion. Made from roasted grains, Postum is caffeine-free and rich with a smooth roasted flavor. It's the perfect drink for those quiet, chilly mornings. Whether you're curled up with a good book, sharing a laugh with loved ones, or simply watching the snow fall outside, a cup of Postum is the moment you have been waiting for.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Mormons. We have quite the cast of co-hosts today. Matt, you're joining me. This is kind of out of the ordinary. How are you?
Yeah, this is unusual, Kurt. Normally I have like a hate relationship with you on the podcast, but it's fun to have you on the podcast from time to time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What do you mean about this hate relationship?
Oh no, never mind. I forgot. It's not you. It's hold on. It's Richie. Richie's the one that I'm supposed to hate. Sorry,
that's right.
Kurt.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, we're suddenly in a counseling session. This is great. Oh, Matt hates me. Let's talk about it.
Sorry, that's how strong
This Week in Mormons.
That's right. I couldn't remember who I was supposed to hate.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Let's put Richie back under the bus where he belongs. So we know he's listening. So we love and hate you, Richie. So, anyways, and then I want to invite on Art Olivas. Is that? Sorry, is
that's correct?
That's
yeah. No, you said it perfectly. It's like Olivas alone. So
Olivas alone. Perfect. Now you have the name of your podcast.
Yeah, the Olivas alone.
Olivas alone. So is Art short for Arturo?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, Arturo awesome. Olivas is my name. So
now I'm sure many algorithms are pointing Latter-day Saints towards your social media accounts. I follow you on Instagram. Is that your main, like, your flagship social media?
Yeah, so Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook are kind of the three main focuses, and I've kind of been surprised at just how much Facebook has actually grown. It kind of grew by itself. I was focusing on TikTok, and then Instagram started kind of growing, and then Facebook from there grew a little bit faster than both of the other ones. So it's been interesting to kind of see where people are watching the videos.
When you post on Instagram, does it automatically push it to Facebook?
Yeah, it automatically pushes it to Facebook and Threads. I mean, you can choose to, but yeah, I have it set to automatically post.
And Threads, there's nothing going on in Threads. I'm just checking in.
Yeah, just checking in. Yeah. It's an easy push, so I was like, I'll be lazy and push it. So,
how about Blue Sky? How's that going for you?
Yeah, it's pretty gray over there. I don't know
yeah. Blue skies are gray skies.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Art, like, tell me, how did this start? I mean, a lot of people have their Instagram account, they're showing their family and, their day-to-day things, or they're connecting with family. But where did this idea come from, talking about breaking news, Latter-day Saint news?
Yeah, so I think that there was a big, I mean, just within in the political and just news realm, there's a big push for independent news outlets, and that are sharing the news, and I didn't see anything out there for Latter-day Saint news, and it's kind of a twofold thing. One, there's just so much negative news out there. So I thought, why don't I do something positive? And the church always has great stories and uplifting stories that are going around the whole world. So I thought, why not put that goodness out there? But then the other part was right around the time that I started, there was a lot of, um, you know, I was getting two sides of a story of like the church having so much money and the church's finances and how come they don't do more.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, I was also getting the church did this and the church spent this much money and the church is helping with this. And so I'm like, there's a disconnect here between what people are, think the church is spending its money on and what the church is actually spending its money on and how it's using its resources. And so I thought, well, that needs to get out there a lot more. So it all started with just a bunch of those stories of like, okay, what is, the church donated this much and the church is, sending Chromebooks and wheelchairs and hospital
Yeah.
equipment and school supplies and, all this stuff. And so and then it kind of grew from there. I started actually doing more actual news stuff. So
Yeah.
that's
So how
kind of
long
where it
have you
started.
been focused on the news now?
I think a little less than a year, and it's
That's
grown
cool.
really fast. There's
Yeah.
definitely a need for podcasts like this that talk about the news, and then just in also the social media. So
Yeah. And how do you go about like curating the stories? Like, cause they're, like you mentioned, there's really unfair, news articles about the church, but it's still in the news cycle. So maybe you
yeah,
feel pressure to talk about it or,
so I actually try not to shy away from anything that might even be a bit, uncomfortable for members of the church to hear,
yeah.
because I think that there's that quote, truth doesn't need to hide, or
Mhm.
the truthfulness of the church doesn't need to hide. I think it's by J. Reuben Clark. But I ultimately like, I think that we can face those kind of criticisms and those type of hard to hear and uncomfortable stories head on in a very faithful way. I don't think that we need to kind of sugarcoat anything. And I think it's also part of like the whole, restitution of all things. I think the church is evolving in the way that the Lord wants it to evolve for sure. So
Awesome. Very cool. Well, we will definitely link to it in the show notes, encourage people to follow you over there. And I think it's just cool to stay up to date with breaking news, as you're
yeah,
scrolling through social media and you're doing all the things that probably This Week in Mormon should have been doing. So we applaud you for that. And maybe
no,
we
you guys are
can
doing
get
great.
caught
You
up
mean
with
like
those
talking
stories.
about the news?
Well, like doing it more like, podcasts are so,
Niche.
2014,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
or now it's like, man, we should probably do more on social media,
Like on
but
TikTok and all of
yeah,
these things that I was asking Art, what is that? What is
Yeah,
Threads?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I need
yeah,
to get Matt on, do more TikTok dances. I think that's what we're missing,
yeah.
Matt, is
That's I'd like to
is
see.
you in
I'd
your
like to see
office
some of those
dancing.
moves.
Yeah, I'm good at it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, are anything else we should know about you? Anything unique or, I mean, you're from the Phoenix area.
Yeah, right now I
Anything
live
else?
in Phoenix. My married for a little over 10 years. My wife, my completely selfless and wonderful and gorgeous wife, is from here. So we decided to raise our family. We have two kids. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, and so went to school up at UVU, studied music, and then have done nothing with that other than maybe some ward choirs here and there. But
You can write an intro to your Instagram videos.
yeah, so I'm currently serving as a bishop, and one of the things that I tell my counselors is like, look, whoever the next bishop is, if they can just call me to be the ward choir director, that would be my favorite calling,
Nice.
I think.
I think it's fair that you get to pick your next calling after
Yeah,
being.
Yeah.
yeah, I think so too. I think that should be in the handbook. We should
Yeah,
probably write to church headquarters and be like, bishops get to pick their next calling.
that's true. It's true. Well, that's awesome. So, what if someone goes to Houston? What's the Tex-Mex restaurant that you would recommend in Houston?
Oh, so there's Ninfa's, I would say, but the
Oh yeah.
original Ninfa's is the Ninfa's on, I forget what the road is on Emancipation, but Ninfa's restaurant is our
Mm,
family go to. So
love it. All
Kurt,
right.
are you familiar with Whataburger?
I've never been there, but yeah, I've seen it in my travels. So,
yeah,
I mean, Whataburger. You got to go to
is
Whataburger.
is
we have
Houston like
Whataburger
the
here.
home base for that?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Whataburger. If you ever go to Houston, you have to go to Bucky's. So
Oh
Bucky's
yeah.
it's a gas station, and I know that is very like. Well, I think Spanish Fork just announced they're getting a
Yeah, soon we'll
Bucky's.
be able to
Yeah,
just go to Spanish Fork. So
yeah.
I'm excited.
LDS News,
That
you
sounds
heard
fun.
it here. Bucky's is
That's
coming
right.
to it's
To
coming to
Spanish
Spanish
Fork.
Fork.
I wonder what apostle will dedicate it.
Yeah,
We'll let you know. So
that's
You
awesome.
know, I was in Houston, and it was the first time in my life I was ever picked up by a prostitute. So to me, Houston is the land of
breaking
prostitution.
news
So,
here.
so all right, I don't know if that's the way it really is, but that's how it is in my mind. I'm like, wait a minute, what just happened?
I never that never happened to me as I was in Houston, but I did serve my mission in New York City, and I was chased by a prostitute one time. So my companion and I
Dang,
were
you
in
guys! I don't have a
Manhattan, and
prostitute story.
Oh
I feel
man.
so left out.
can't, yeah, count yourself
Maybe when
lucky.
Bucky's arrives in Spanish Fork, that's what will come with Bucky's.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Well, and Matt, I assume that story's rather short. You turned down the
I was so confused.
offer.
I actually was in a hotel writing my master's thesis. I had something I had to do at a consulate nearby. So all I did is like left the hotel to go to Walgreens to get some lunch or something like that. And this woman was like hitting on me in a very peculiar way. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then later on, I noticed she was just working the lobby, like hitting. So it was just the part of town. Maybe like I was at the consulate office there, the Russian consulate. So maybe like a lot of people come to town to do business there. And so it was
Yeah.
a good spot. I don't know.
Innocent Matt was like, maybe she wants to learn about the gospel. This is great.
Was it at a Marriott hotel? You could have given her the Book of Mormon.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's right. Come up to my room. There's a Book of Mormon here for you.
He's like, great, this is going really well.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, moving on here. Well, should we jump into some news here? BYU football is in the news a lot. We're in the Big 12 championship game.
Like Kurt's part of the team.
Oh, of course. I'm like,
They wouldn't have made it without Kurt.
that's right. Hey, I sit I row 7, I think seat 24. And so, yeah,
Wow.
I have on those third downs, I scream as loud as I can, and I've stopped a few of those from converting. So
Kurt's in the special teams. So.
that's right. That's right. There's the Cougar Club, and then I'm like, no, I'm not in the Cougar Club. But
Okay, well then you can say we. If you're a season ticket holder, you can definitely say we.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So me and Kalani, we got him the deal. So Matt, have you been following this Kalani Sitake contract extension drama that's been going
Yeah, a
on?
little bit. To me, it's kind of fascinating how tight-lipped the church is about it, right? Like, so historically, the church doesn't release any of that kind of information. And historically, the church doesn't like to spend a lot of money on coaches or anything like that. But it appears that people are spending money and they don't want to tell us who it is or how much it is. And that's a little unusual in college football.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a private organization, they don't have to release it, right?
But
So-
usually universities want to release it because it boosts their image, right? Like USC is a private institution, but they always release that information because they want to attract coaches and players and things like that. For some reason in our community, we don't want people to know how much money we're spending on NIL or coaches or any of that.
But we do want you to know how much we spend on welfare, which is like 1.6 billion.
Yeah,
so,
close to
just so you
$2
know.
billion in 2024. Yeah.
If you go to care.churchofjesuschrist.org, you can see all the numbers, which is cool. It's inspiring.
And I imagine it's not the church spending. I heard $9 million for Kalani Sitake's contract. I imagine it's not the church spending that kind of money. It's got to be Crumble Cookies guy, right?
That's
And
right.
who spent $50,000 for a penalty that then got reversed, and then he didn't spend. Yeah.
Yeah. So put it towards the
Rick,
contract.
correct me if I'm wrong. I heard that he had announced that he was staying at BYU. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
So Penn State was tempting him to come, and I think the number, I don't know how accurate this was, but I think they were offering him $11 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard
in an
10
additional
million,
5 years or something. So that maybe tells you, I don't know if BYU necessarily hit the 11 million. That's why they're sort of speculating 9 to 10 million, which I think he was currently making like 3 million or something. So, I mean,
this is an unpopular opinion, Kurt, but they should have let him go. They should have let him go to Penn State.
Hey, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but
why do you think?
I don't know that BYU's that good. Like it's weird to say, but like they haven't played really anybody, and they played, like one good team that they're probably going to lose to tomorrow, and they're not like, I don't know. And for that kind of money, I don't know. I just think that there
Right.
are a lot of good people in the pipeline that you could replace Kalani Sitake with, and they would do okay. They would do just fine.
Yeah.
Why do
And
you
this is
why do you think he stayed?
well,
Uh, it's his
he
dream job.
talked about that. One, they wrote him a big fat check. That's
Yeah,
they
I guess that'll
started
do
there.
it, right? That'll definitely
But
do it.
but there was another article. I don't know if I have it here, where he talked about just how he said it's Desert News mission over money, the inside story why Kalani chose BYU over Penn State, and essentially
Mhm.
came down to being able to work his testimony into his coaching is awesome. So
It doesn't surprise me that the Deseret News would write that story. I think that BYU loves to write those stories about the people that make sacrifices financially to stay at BYU because it's such a special place, which it is. Don't get me wrong. BYU is a special, special place, but um, I don't see a lot of people at BYU making tremendous financial sacrifices to stay at BYU when they have good offers other places. Like a lot of people leave BYU to further their career, to make more
like
money.
academics, is that what mainly
Academics,
what
but
you're
even Bronco Mendenhall, right? Bronco
yeah,
Mendenhall eventually left and probably took more money when he went to Virginia. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like,
right,
it's fine to go to BYU and leave for a better opportunity, and if you want, come back. But I don't know. I
yeah.
don't love those stories of like, oh, the sacrifice that BYU faculty and coaches are making. It's like, come on. I
And
mean,
now
maybe
he'll
there's
only get
family,
$9
right?
million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How will he do it?
Do you think there's more to it than just the mission aspect of it? So
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, I've never met Kalani Sitake, but I could imagine it would be very intimidating to go from BYU to Penn State.
yeah,
The expectations at Penn State are so crazy compared to BYU. Like
mm,
BYU, you can go 10-1 2 years in a row and everybody's happy. You
mhm,
can't do
mhm.
that at Penn State. Like
Yeah.
they fired a really good coach in the middle of the year because it didn't look like he was going to win the national title. So that pressure, I could see why somebody would say, if I can get close to that dollar amount without that pressure, I would stay where I'm at.
yeah.
Mm.
And I think going back to like what exactly are we paying for, right? And it was interesting to see the greater Latter-day Saint BYU community like rally around Kalani. And I'll be the first to say I love Kalani. I love his personality. I love that he's one of Lavelle Edwards' boys that is leading the team, that he's been a player there, and his testimony is awesome. I mean, his BYU devotional was so inspiring. I mean, I love everything about the guy, right? But I'm like, okay, so what if he's like he does go and we hire Jay Hill, who's the defensive coordinator, and we pay him half of what we're paying Kalani. And is he? I just don't see us getting that many more or less wins depending on that role. And a lot of people say, "Well, Kalani's done a great job building culture," and I just think the BYU brand, especially the football brand, like it immediately comes with that culture that is easy for any coach with a Latter-day Saint background to build off of. And so I know a lot of people disagree with that, but um,
It's
you know,
it's a weird culture to talk about when your
yeah,
starting quarterback last year is at Tulane today because he didn't buy into the culture at BYU.
Yeah.
And you have
yeah,
basketball players with charges of DUI and things like I don't know what culture Kalani Sitake established that other people didn't establish.
right, right. So, and again, I love that Kalani's staying, but I'm like, wow, that's a pretty penny, like,
Yeah.
But and this is so one question I want to ask your discussion. Like, you think about, some people can look at BYU football, and some make the argument that the church just needs to get rid of collegiate sports, right? And I definitely don't agree with that as a season ticket holder, but you think about, like, do you guys know how much the church spent on just their education in a year? How much they spend? Matt, do you know this since
What I've
you
been
get a
told is that education, like CES, is number 2 or 3, right? So it goes welfare, missions, and then church education. That's
yeah.
what I've been told, something like that.
So I went to a meeting. They had sort of a social media, influencer gathering with Elder Clark, and he's the
The
Clark
commission
Gilbert.
leader.
Clark, yes, thank you.
Elder
Clark
Gilbert.
Gilbert. Elder Gilbert, yes.
The
He's the
commissioner of church
commissioner of
education.
education. And he said the church spends $1 billion on everything from BYU to Pathway to, BYU, Idaho, everything like that. And so obviously the church has a huge mission when it comes to education and their colleges, right? And I think a part of that you can't get away from is the sports dynamic. And so it's easy to say, they shouldn't have paid Kalani that much, or they just need to, they'll win a little bit, but we don't need to go all in. But I don't know. I'm sort of, when they're investing so much money in just the academic realm, I think they may look at football and some of these other sports like, we actually have to play with the big boys in order to live up to the expectations we have with the greater academic institution. Thoughts?
Yeah, there's definitely. I say that there's definitely a, and not because BYU has done it. I think just colleges in general. There's definitely a big, sports is a big part of any university and any college. It's their biggest moneymaker, I would say, for a lot of schools. So, um, and so I think, I mean, you could definitely probably make a case for it is feeding, what the profits that are coming through, college sports is feeding maybe some other missions of BYU, and that might be me with my rose-colored glasses on, or being
Yeah.
optimistic, but I mean, maybe that's the way that they look at it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of thoughts I can share that won't get me fired. I think
You've
what
come
I would
this
say,
far, Matt. Yeah, you're still in that office. I don't know.
I would say MIT has no sports and is doing just fine academically. And
Mm.
Stanford University is not great at sports and they're doing just fine academically. And I don't think that the revenue producing sports produce enough revenue to fund all of the other sports.
Hmm.
But I do think that there's something in terms of like every time BYU is in the news, it tends to be positive press for the church. And so I could see it as like a PR move, right? So if you move beyond football, BYU has an amazing cross country team. They've got an amazing track team. And those student athletes make the news in ways that student athletes at other places don't. So I can see
Yeah.
why they put money into sports. I don't know that the amount of money they're spending on the revenue producing sports are they're getting a good return on investment. But my guess is also that they have boosters footing that bill and it's not the church. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that I do hear that like argument out there of being like, no, the BYU football team or sports in general is such good PR for the church. And I'm like, I don't know, but like look how much it costs, right? Like,
yeah.
could we not take that money elsewhere? And again, I would hate it for them to get rid of sports. But if we're just talking about PR, I'm like, I mean, it's great that we're in the rankings and we're in the championship, have a chance at the playoffs, but that's really expensive PR. I think if we actually looked at the balance sheet, but
Well, and if I think that discussion happens among members of the Quorum of the 12, but I think I can say with certainty that based on public statements they've made that Dallin H. Oaks and Jeffrey R. Holland are huge BYU sports fans. And so they're kind of high-ranking voices in debates that might happen among the 12.
And maybe
Yeah.
they're listening to the podcast, so they can
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
we
we
know
could
they do. Yeah, they
put our
do.
2 cents into that Thursday temple meeting.
Did you know I had a friend? This one won't get me fired. I had a friend. He was asked to go to BYU Hawaii and do a report, an analysis of whether BYU Hawaii should keep their sports program. So he spent a year in Hawaii traveling with the teams, all this stuff. He writes up this big long report about why they should never get rid of sports at BYU Hawaii. And they say, thank you. And then like a week later, they're like, we're done with sports at BYU Hawaii.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's
But I think
funny.
to your point, Matt, about the PR aspect of it, I mean, after Colorado, when they played Colorado, before the game, the whole team did a big, huge community service event where they fed the food bank, or they helped stock up the food bank there, and so I think that there is I mean, definitely the cost of the sports program is definitely something that the church is talking about, and I think they're like, well, if we're going to keep it, how can we make it an actual like missionary led event or anything like that? So I think that was interesting,
Yeah.
that they would do that. And then, we got made fun of later on in that game too.
Well, but they do firesides, right? All the communities
Yeah.
on when there's road games, they do firesides. I think it does a lot to build the strength of the church in areas where there's road games. And it's not just football, the women's soccer team, all the teams out there do these sorts of things that I think help build the church. But yeah, I don't know about the cost.
Yeah. And I do wonder, like, if it is a PR play, like if that's a big component of the decision, like it just seems like they could leverage that more with whether it's commercials or things. I don't like how much when the Latter-day Saint missionaries knock on a door and someone's a huge college football fan, like how much does that play into that experience? I don't know. I just feel like they could run more commercials or do more things with the experience to orient people towards the greater mission of the church. But I don't know.
Yeah, my son who's on a mission right now in New Jersey, everybody asks him about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So
See,
well,
Yeah.
the
And
football
swig.
team is definitely getting drowned out from the larger narrative.
yeah. So if they really want to take that PR money and put it somewhere, Hulu, you could write a check to Hulu. Oh boy.
Well, when I was on my mission in New York, the big thing was it was Gladys Knight,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
and I'm probably dating myself, but when President Hinckley and definitely presented Gladys Knight in a lot of the church's stuff, and I remember knocking on some doors and being in Harlem and having people be like, "Man, I can't believe Gladys Knight is a part of your church."
Yeah.
I can't believe Gladys Knight, and I think she came and she did like a fireside when they opened up the new Harlem building, which is like a 4-story building. It's really nice. So,
Huh.
so yeah, maybe there, maybe there is something to that PR aspect of it. So,
Yeah. So in line with BYU football, I think one cultural shift that's happening. I think this is a bigger cultural development or cultural influence than many people realize. But and I think it's been talked on in previous episodes. But this concept of that some star BYU athletes are agreeing to come to BYU, but then and they want to go on a mission, but they're saying, "Oh, I'll just do a 1-year mission," right? And at first, people are saying like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Like, where's the box that I
You
check on my
can't.
papers?" Right, right. Like, how do I get a 1-year mission, right? And essentially, all they're doing is saying, "Yeah, I'll agree to the 24 months, but in reality, I'm just going to arrange with
I'm
my
leaving
mission
early.
president, say I'm leaving early." And the Mormon Land podcast had a discussion on this, and so it kind of keeps staying in the news feed a little bit. Where I think this is really interesting because it puts BYU at a tough spot where. Because you can't force somebody to stay on a mission, right? It's not like, well, you agreed to 24 months. I don't care if you want to go home. Like, I'll lock you in your apartment if I have to, right? And so, but I think the more this happens, I think even people outside of Utah or outside of sports will begin to look at this and be like, well, I mean, I don't necessarily want to do 2 years, but 6 months sounds about good for me. So maybe I'll just do that. And then it puts, the mission program in a tough spot, BYU in a tough spot when it comes to sports, and then just the greater cultural message of missions and the expectations that go with that. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that these two football players are just trying to preempt, right? They're just trying,
Mhm.
if you announce in advance that you're going to come home early, then maybe there's not the same stigma associated with coming home early. Because the truth is, anyone can come home early. Anyone can come home anytime that they want to. But there's a cultural stigma associated with that. It's like,
Yeah.
did you get hurt? Were you sick? Or did you sin? And nobody
Right.
So it's just it's a thing that they're doing to try to preempt that. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the culture responds to that, right? Like if it becomes a cultural thing that it's like, well, announcing that you're just going to do 1 year isn't any different than just going and then coming home after a year, then people probably won't do it. But institutionally, I don't think the church institutionally changes anything because the rules are what they've always been and people can say what they want to say and the church never really responds that much to it, I think.
Yeah. Art,
I
what do you
also
think?
think that, yeah, I also think that that it definitely is going to come with a lot of push from those mission leaders out on the mission. I think that they're going to try to keep them there. So I don't think it's going to be as, yes, we don't we don't force anybody to stay, but we definitely will sit down and discuss all the benefits of staying. We don't say, okay, yeah, you want to go, you can go, but especially if if they're good missionaries, and and if they're you know benefiting, I think if it does start a like chain reaction of people just saying, oh, I'm just gonna preemptively say I'm just gonna go out for 6 months, or I'm just gonna go out for a year, I do think it will cause timing issues as well, because missions and it, they're all it's all coordinated as to when do missionaries, what missions need how many missionaries, or what missions need how many elders and how many sisters. So I think
Mhm.
it could potentially cause, if it grew from here, but it could potentially cause it. But I think I would be interested to follow along these two athletes and see how many of them actually follow through with just a year. I
Yeah.
mean, BYU is going to hold whatever scholarship or whatever program they're in. It's going to hold it for them,
Right.
whether they leave in a year or whether they, stay, for the full 2 years.
Right.
Um, and so I think I don't know, it was hard for me to come home from my mission. I wanted to extend, and so I wonder how many of them are going to get to a year and be like, why
Yeah.
have the Schindler's List, the Oscar Schindler problem, where it's like, how many more could I have, helped, I guess,
Saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah. And
Sean
that's
Bradley served a 2-year mission and then was like the second pick in the NBA draft, like right
right.
after his mission. So
Yeah.
you can stay in shape while you're on a mission.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I had this companion on my mission. When he got with me, he was not proselyting at all. And so in interviews with my president, I'm like, look, I don't care if he doesn't proselyte, but you just need to know he's not proselyting. And so then I didn't hear what happened in the interview with president, but he calls his girlfriend after the meeting with president. He's like, president said if I want to, I can come home now. And I can hear her just screaming with delight on the other end of the phone. And he's like, and I prayed about it and I feel really good about it. And she's like, me too, me too. So I don't know, like it's
Yeah.
always been you can come home
Yeah.
when you want to come home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine, right? Come home. If you're going to be on a mission and not work, come home. And if you're on a mission and you're enjoying it, you should stay and not give it up to go play
Right.
football.
Did
Yeah.
you
But
guys hear about that missionary in Mexico?
uh-uh.
No.
Yeah, so there was a missionary down in Mexico that just like went missing for like 3 days.
No way.
Yeah, he went like missing for 3 days, and it was because he didn't want to go home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he didn't want to go home. So he, from what I've heard from members down there, it was the decision had been made that he needed to go home. He was from Peru, serving in Mexico. The decision was made that he needed to go home, and he didn't want to, so he just kind of went AWOL.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
for a couple
And I
of
know that's
days.
another dynamic, right? I've heard a lot, individuals who are maybe from more of a third world country. Like with us, I went to Sacramento, so it wasn't that foreign. But, you go to a place,
Yeah,
a
it's
less
pretty
ideal
foreign.
location that you probably wouldn't want to live the rest of your life, but to return home to luxury. But a lot of these, if you're coming from a third world country and you're like, no, like you give me like work that I'm passionate about. I get, a stipend. I get a great apartment, and, I love my mission. I don't want to go home, and it's tough to return to that for sure.
Yeah.
So,
I say if
um,
you've ever been to Lodi, I think that's pretty foreign.
I never served in Lodi, but I did get drove through it a few times. Here comes the mail from Lodi, so
Yeah,
we'll let
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
Matt answer that. So, but one thought I just had, like with this mission thing, like it's like Matt said, there's a stigma, right? Unfortunately, in our culture, and it is what it is, and hopefully we can avoid that judgment. But I'm just like, man, this is an interesting thing that the church has to deal with, because I think naturally they just want to say, we're just not even going to comment on it. We don't want this to get out there. Like if people do that, whatever. But if it becomes more of a thing, then all the technicalities of missions and it's interesting. Some of these players act like they're the special case. Like, listen, I have like a professional career on the line, right? And I guarantee you, the vast majority of missionaries who are going to go to med school will make far more money than they do when they get cut after 2 years in the NFL or something like that. It's just such a long shot,
Yeah.
to have a career that you make extraordinary wealth. And so it's like, well, what about the kid that's going to med school thinking, well, yeah, I mean, I want to serve a mission, but I got to get to med school. That's a long time. I got to get home and get on with my life. And so it's just interesting to see how this formulates. And I've kind of played with the idea, like what could the church do to sort of shift that? Because again, you can't force people there, but maybe it's like, okay, but you got to pay for your mission up front. Like, I don't know, like that seems like a shallow
Half
thing to
now,
do,
half
but
later.
there's not too many levers they have to pull on to motivate them the other way. But it's
My
interesting.
current bishop actually said to us, don't prepay anything on the mission because you can't get a refund.
Yeah, it's so
He's
true.
like, just go month by month.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else with this with that story or dynamic?
No, I'm anxious
Cool.
to see where that goes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get away from football and missions and things like that. Art, what in the world of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in December, I mean, there's so much good stuff going on. Maybe give us a rundown of some things that have stood out that the church is doing around Christmas.
Yeah, one of the things. So back in 2018, my wife and I, was it 2018? Yeah, 2018. My wife and I got the opportunity to go down to go over to Japan. And I think one of the crazy things that was kind of a little bit of a culture shock. I mean, among so many other things,
Sure.
they do a lot of things differently in Japan. Was just the amount of vending machines, and
really?
how the church is taking those vending machines, and for the first time this year, they're sending one of those giving machines in it, and it's a high tech one. So I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, and I thought that was cool to. If there was a place to do a giving machine, a donation vending machine, it is Japan. And just the excitement of the people in Japan to be like, oh, I can buy somebody a goat, or I can buy somebody, some disaster relief here at this vending machine, and then the vending machine right next door, get some chips and a soda. So I thought that was really
Chips in the soda.
interesting.
They're going to get ramen noodles in the vending machine.
That's true. I guess that's true. that is true. They have this vending machine there at a 7-Eleven that you buy the bottle of soda, like Sprite, and then it is like cooled to exactly the right temperature that as soon as you open it, it crystallizes and becomes a slushy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
We are so far behind on
in the vending machine
in the vending machine world. Yeah. I mean, even our giving machines, the one that we have here in Gilbert is just like an not old, but it's a really nice vending machine, but it's
you have to push buttons.
You push the button. The one in Japan is like a touch screen. I was looking at pictures and it's got QR codes and all this information. I was like, oh.
Have you heard of doing a 777 on a giving machine?
Well, let's hear this, Matt. What's
this is just some of the chatter that I heard, because we've got one in Rexburg now. So apparently if you go 777, it buys one of everything in the machine. And so I heard about this because somebody was like, I want to do 777 and purchase one of everything, but I can't afford it. So I'm doing a fundraiser so that I can push 7. I'm like, isn't the whole point of the giving machine that if a person wants to give, they can just go give whatever they want to give, not like give to you so you can buy one of everything.
And if you put in 666, it makes an orphan go hungry. So it's sort of the opposite.
It undoes whatever.
It undoes a 777. Yeah.
Yeah. What's with the 777? Are we one-upping the mark of the beast? Is that what?
I don't know. I've never tried it. Our listeners can let us know, but that's what I heard. 777 buys one of everything.
All right. Well, maybe we need a fundraise. Do This Week in Mormons fundraiser. Let's be a 777.
Do a GoFundMe to find out if it's true.
So we can have that experience ourselves of being able to afford to give so much that we can't afford to give right now.
That's right.
Serious investigative reporting going on right here. So we need.
Now, Japan isn't the only country. From what it's across 126 cities in 21 countries.
Mm-hmm.
And 6 continents that machines are part of the Light the World annual Christmas initiative that the church is doing. So, Santiago, Chile, we got Buenos Aires, Bangkok, Nairobi, and even BYU. That's right.
Yeah.
Of course, because they're giving so much there. Kurt,
It is.
isn't Leading Saints a nonprofit?
It is 501c3 nonprofit. If you want to write a check, we'll definitely make that tax deductible.
I want to get a slot to Leading Saints in the giving machines. Like, that would be awesome.
I've made the phone call; they won't return it. So
Why is it all about goats and
It's like-
starving people?
it's like
It could be
goats
about-
and like,
Podcasts.
and there's like help buy one podcast episode. Like,
What else are people gonna do while they're folding laundry or
I
doing the
know.
dishes, right?
yeah, they just no. I get no
Or on their
respect
commute.
around here. It's always
Yeah.
about the goats. So
and water,
Unbelievable.
water and food.
Unbelievable, but cool. Definitely, let's report back on the 777. And hey, I'll say it now. All Patreon contributions for TWIM in the month of December are going to the giving machine, and I think that gets us maybe a
Close.
can of food or something that we can
Close.
give. We can give to somebody. But yeah, that'd be cool.
That's very generous, Kurt. That's very good of
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Here's a random story. Siegel Book, Sweet Salt Clothing, and Covenant Communications closing on Christmas Eve. Man, is Ebenezer Scrooge running that organization?
Forevermore, right? It's not just closing for
Yeah.
the day. They're all
Oh,
going
right.
out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
business.
So they've announced that all stores will permanently close on December 24th, marking the end of a 38-year chapter in LDS consuming history. The closure includes like those companies I mentioned, and it was founded in 1987 by Lou
Koford.
Koford.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Luke Koford.
Uh,
Koford Books.
Koford Books, and I think Deseret Book acquired them several years ago. So this is like an interesting. What do you make of it? Anything?
I'm sad. That was where I would always go to buy discount Deseret Book items. Like,
Yeah.
if you want audio cassettes, they don't sell them at Deseret Book. You have to go to Siegel Book
Do they really
and
still sell
tape.
them?
Yeah,
Oh, well,
audio
they also-
cassettes.
Do they also sell the cassette players?
No,
yeah.
but you can
Oh.
find those at Deseret Industries. The
There you
other-
go.
Wow.
The church just takes care of you all around.
It was like when I go into Deseret Book, it's like what 10% books now, maybe 20% books, and a whole lot
Yeah.
of other stuff. So Siegel Book was nice. I could go in, whatever the Deseret Book thought they would sell a lot of, and then ended up not selling very much of it. I could go in and get it at a discount at Siegel Book and Tape. But apparently, I didn't do it often enough for them to stay profitable.
It's
And
Or
your
they
fault, man.
discounted it too much.
And it is a sign, I think, that books are going away. Like, it's kind of sad, but books are a thing of the past.
They
Yeah.
are for sure.
The Deseret Book here that we have next to the Mesa Temple is like a small section of the of the store, and then the rest is like home decor.
Mhm.
We have a huge fridge of BYU Creamery stuff, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
I think is where they make most of their money. For
I go
sure.
to Deseret Book to see what it would look like if I walked into my neighbor's house. Because
yeah,
all the
they-
decorations in Deseret Book
Yeah.
are in all of the homes of the people I minister to. So
Yeah.
it helps prepare me for what I'm going to
Yeah.
see when I
Right.
go into their house.
Yeah,
I
it's an
practice my
interesting-
lessons there. I'll sit on the little couch with the pillows, and I'll do a
people
role
gather
play.
around.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, it is interesting. Like I have this probably deserves its own podcast, but I just always feel strange as the obviously Deseret Book is own Siegel Book, and obviously they're going away, but just the fact that the church's for-profit arm owns it, Deseret Book, which I don't mind the church like having for-profit businesses and things, but just as awkward when it's like in conference they announce a revelatory program like Come Follow Me, and then on the other side they're like, and come buy our $50 journal for the
a
Come Follow
journal
Me, and it's like,
edition of the Come
like,
Follow manual. Yeah,
I don't mind if other people make the journal, but like when the church makes the journal, it just is like, ugh, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
but at the
But
same
s-
time, Deseret Book, I think the only thing keeping them going is that they're probably heavily subsidized by other for-profit efforts that the church is doing, because
Hmm.
I think it's needed, but I just wish maybe an independent group owned it. But
You
Yeah,
think
I've
they're
heard
getting-
that. I've heard Deseret Book is struggling. Like that, their romance books sell really well, but books from members of the Quorum of the 12 don't sell well enough to keep them
Right.
afloat.
Yeah.
Do you think
and
that
I
their
I
books
wrote
will-
a book almost 2 years ago, and I did it self-published and everything. And it is available in Deseret Book if you're in the Gospel Voices section if you're looking. But it is like so much work, like comparable to like you make no money. Like, and it would have been almost zero money if I had a publisher, but like it is not, the business model is so broken, but I don't know, people still want a
Yeah.
book. So
Do you think that
cool.
they're getting a lot of their money from the Deseret, like the Bookshelf Plus memberships?
Man, I mean, when
I
their
think
app
they're
works,
hoping
but
to. Yeah. I heard that they're going to try and put podcasts on there in order to boost subscriptions to Deseret Book Plus.
yeah,
They
and
have
they
a
have some
couple.
on there that are
Yeah,
only
they have
behind the paywall, but
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
clearly I'm not a Deseret Book Plus subscriber, so I had no idea.
And hey, they got my phone number if they want to put this podcast behind the paywall.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
We are
Yeah.
for sale.
So something that I
really,
thought was
but
interesting
for the
was
right number.
I didn't know that the church had like a modest, like I didn't know that they owned a modest clothing brand.
Yeah.
I just recently found out about Sweet Salt Clothing. I didn't know. I've heard of obviously Siegel Book and Covenant Communication.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to those talks on tape. You know,
Mhm.
Covenant Communication. Yeah, I grew up on all that, but I didn't know anything about Sweet Salt
I wonder if we
Clothing. I
can
thought that was
license that intro now.
oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Or I'll
After
just
the
put it
24th.
I'll put it at the beginning of this episode and see if I get a phone call. It's like, you're going out of business anyways.
Based on the way I see young students dress at BYU Idaho, I don't think modest clothing is in style right now. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
whole
do you think it's being redefined, or I mean, with the
I
whole
mean,
sleeveless garment now? So
yeah, I
Yeah.
try not to have these conversations with the young women in my classes, but from what I can tell, like the standards of modesty that I was raised with, both for men and for women, they're just
Yeah.
nobody seems to care anymore. They just right, men wear beards and people have tattoos and people dress in all kinds of ways. The idea that the church can kind of set a standard for how people should dress, I think that that's just going away.
Yeah. Very true. Matt, tell us about this article about the Pro LDS podcast, Defend and Divide the Faith and the Faithful.
Yeah, this is in the Salt Lake Tribune. So they mentioned that in 2014, Elder Bednar asked members of the church to use social media to share their faith. And I'm guessing, Kurt, you were way ahead of 2014. You didn't respond to Elder Bednar. You were already out there.
Yeah, it was definitely like, oh, I'm on the right track because I launched my Leading Saints podcast in 2014. So.
Yeah. So it says that from 2010 to 2014, there were about 100 channels created by members of the church. 2015 to 2019, there were about 200. And then 2020 to 2025, there are now more than 430 channels. If you include channels that criticize the church, there's more than 700 total channels about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's a space I don't know anything about. The growth of it, I wouldn't attribute the growth of it to Elder Bednar's talk. I would attribute the growth of it to technology that makes it easier for people to do it.
Yeah.
They say there's two groups of people that listen to podcasts, which is going to shock nobody in our audience. There's the faithful core and the faithful alternative.
Which one are we, Matt?
I'm definitely a faithful core.
Okay, good. Let's go on the record. We are a faithful core
podcast for sure, right? Melissa maybe tries to get it a little alternative sometimes, but I would say, but like we're not faithful core in the John By the Way podcast, Come Follow Me podcast kind of way, right? So maybe
that's
maybe
true. Maybe we are more alternative, but yeah, because it mentions some podcasts I've been a guest on.
Scripture Central.
Well, in the faithful alternative.
Which
Quick
one's
Media
that?
I've been on.
Oh,
Thoughtful Faith I've been on. So Word Radio, yeah, and these are a little more like kind of. I mean that they definitely have their flavor, you know. So it's
okay.
different than your typical Come Follow Me podcast. But
when they say faithful alternative, are they talking like on both sides of the spectrum? Because I would say if we had a spectrum, we have our faithful core, then I would say that'd probably be in the middle. And then you have your faithful alternatives. Where does something like, you know, a Thoughtful Faith or Quick Media or Word Radio would be on one end, and then you might have something like Faith Matters possibly on the other, with Terrell Gibbons and on the other end. Would they consider them also is like faithful alternative, both ends of the spectrum? They're alternative on one end and alternative on the other end, or?
It's a good question.
I'll tell you.
Go
I
ahead.
listen
Matt.
to this podcast, and I listen to my podcast, and I listen to Kurt's podcast,
Oh
and I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know any of these other
At least once a
podcasts.
year,
Oh
you
no.
you turn us on. But yeah, it's interesting because I would say Faith Matters is a faithful alternative, but it's definitely on a different scale than Quick Media or Thoughtful Faith, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely a movement, and I think again, this is one of those things the church is sort of observing this cultural shift of media and influence. And it's great when we had Instagram models and they were showing their family going to the baptism or going to church on Sunday, and now they're like, oh, like, but they're sharing their opinions. What do we do? I don't know. I don't know if they lose sleep over it, but there's definitely a group, and I interact with people at the communications department where they are aware of this and they're kind of thinking, how can we both leverage it and benefit from it, but also not, be, not lean over their shoulder and tell them what to do, So,
Yeah.
I think it's refreshing. When I was
yeah.
growing up, like it seemed like there was the church or Deseret Book producing content, and then there was everything else. And I love that there's so much diversity of content. And these are just the United States, right? I would have to imagine
Mhm.
that there are people in other countries that are producing content that's equally like that works for them and their community and things like that. So I think all of this is really, really good. And I'm glad that the church is hands off on all of this.
Right.
Yeah, during
Unless,
the
I mean,
pandemic, I started a podcast, a Spanish Come Follow Me,
oh,
and
really?
got to know a lot of maybe some of these content creators down in Mexico. And I mean, there's the Scripture Central, the Spanish kind of arm of Scripture Central, and they do a lot of really good. There, I would say that, and I can't speak to other countries, but I don't know that there's very many like faithful alternative um like type things in like the Spanish. I haven't
Yeah.
found any. And so I think that they would be, I think I like the idea of there being um to Matt's point, this diversity in thought within the church. I think it's refreshing. I think we need more of it, so that people can. And the reason I think it's refreshing, so that people can say, "Oh, there is a place for me here. There's a place. There's people
Mhm.
that think like me here. There's people that look like me here." And so I think it's good in that sense. Within the I'm I attend a Spanish speaking ward, so within the Spanish speaking community here in the United States or in Mexico, I haven't found anything that would fit that faithful alternative on either end of the spectrum. If anything, I think that their faithful core might be more like you know yeah, yeah. I just think that they have that definitely faithful core, but I think there's room for the faithful alternative as well.
Love it. Very cool. Um,
Let me ask you this, Kurt, real fast.
yeah.
Are you worried about people talk about the balkanization of media, where people just listen to things from one source and they never hear things from any other sources? Do you worry about something like that happening in the LDS podcasting world?
Absolutely. And I feel like that is currently happening, and where, like, to Art's point, like, I like the idea that people have to go and find similar voices or things that they can they can learn more from, maybe some of their life perspectives. However, I see more and more silos being created in the Latter-day Saint world. And I go to all the conferences, from Faith Matters to Gather to North Star. um, and I mean, there's the BYU Education Week, right? And it's like, you go to BYU Education Week and you go to Faith Matters, and there's times where it doesn't even sound like it's the same church.
Yeah,
you know?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And at the same time, like, I went to Faith Matters, and this bishop came up to me. He saw me there and comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, that last session." I'm like, "Yeah," like he was so, like, confused by it, like, because it wasn't as orthodox as he was used to. And
mhm,
and and I think, and this is, to me, this is what I'm looking for, as people create content. I'm always looking for those who are willing to have other voices on, or debate their ideas or things like that. because I think that's a healthy place to, if you're willing to go and put your voice out there and take strong stands on doctrine or cultural things, but you're not willing to talk with somebody else who thinks differently. That's like a red flag for me. And there's a lot of those platforms who they kind of get in their silo and they do their thing, but they're not willing to be, take pushback on a lot of their thoughts. And so that's what sometimes worries me, because then people get drawn in these silos and they think, oh, and it kind of ruminates where they start to think, yeah, the church is kind of off. Like the church is kind of doing it wrong. And then that kind of grows and grows to the point where they're losing their faith, when a lot of the content they listen to is very well meaning and, that would be considered faithful. And it happens on both ends of that progressive conservative spectrum, so.
Yeah, I was a part of that Organized Intelligence, that AI conference, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
noticed like there are these groups funded by either millionaires or billionaires, and they have these agendas that they want to push. And some of them don't even want to be in the same space with each other. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, if that group's coming, then I'm not coming. And if that
Right.
group's coming, then I will come. So that is concerning, right? Because our church is supposed to be a church about bringing people together. And so to the extent that this sort of stuff divides the church, that's concerning to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I like to call it adult theology, like adult religion. I think
Mm,
living in the paradox is the whole point, and living in the
right.
diversity. Like you can stay siloed your whole life, and we could probably sit and talk about people that we know for hours that have stayed siloed into one idea of what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or the Gospel of Jesus Christ is. But the truth is we live in reality in a world full of paradox, and I think that it is part of God's plan is living within that paradox. And I think that's adult religion, is being able to say, hey, this I know is true and this I know is true, and they seem to not fit with one another. um, but I'm wrestling through that. So
Yeah, I would encourage people that are like navigating this, because they're, they don't want to go to, I would guess most people don't want to be caught in a silo and not hear, alternative views. I would say, like, look for those that are willing to stand in the tension of a lot of the discussions, right? Like, I'll go to a lot of conferences and it's like, sometimes let's just pretend like prophets and covenants don't exist and we'll just talk about Jesus. And I'm like, wait, time out. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you can't
how do we
stand in
know
that
about Jesus?
tension and
Yeah.
articulate, the benefits of covenants, even though it's maybe sometimes messy, or ideals in the gospel, even though not everybody has ideals, right? And so I'm always
Mhm.
encouraging people, look for those groups to stand in the tension. And that's what ideally what I'm striving to do with Leading Saints is, there's no topic that I won't approach or talk about if I feel like it's related, it'd be helpful to the leadership audience that we're trying to address. Because as all of us know, when you're the bishop and that appointment comes up on your calendar, you don't know what issue they're bringing into that room to talk about. And so it's better that we talk about it and stand in that tension, so that
Mhm.
more leaders are better prepared and more members are better prepared to navigate and articulate their testimony.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. We maybe have time for one more. Matt, do you want to hit on the African
The
growth boom?
Economist has a story about, it's called Mormonism's. I know, try not to get offended. Mormonism's surprising boom in Africa. It talks about how the church in Africa has come a long way from being the white people's church. And maybe a little bit to what Art was saying previously about Gladys Knight. There's been this perception in Africa that our church is a white people church. But this story says that our church is growing very quickly in Africa, that between 2011 and 2021, the number of members in Africa grew by 120%. 9 of the 10 fastest growing countries for our church are in Africa. And it's just booming.
Hmm.
Most new members are young. More than 2/3 of the members of the church in Africa are under 21 years old. And many are joining because the church helps them with education. All right, I think the education initiatives that we've talked about on this podcast are really,
Yeah.
really taking root in Africa and bringing people into the church.
Yeah. One thought I had, just sort of a callback to something that Art said with other cultures. Art, you talked about this. You don't see this faithful alternative voices coming up in like Latino circles. Um, like it's interesting as I talk with, and I think this relates to the growth happening in Africa, where as I've talked to like return missionaries who serve their mission in Africa, I've often asked many of them just randomly, like, how did you navigate the history of blacks in the priesthood? And
Hmm.
more often than not, they'll look at me and they say it was a non-issue for them. It didn't even like they knew about it, but it wasn't like something they were wrestling with. And I think it just in our maybe first world American culture, like we're more sensitive to these things, and so it slows down that faith progression to an extent. Again, these are valid things to learn about and to wrestle with and whatever, but I think like in a place like Africa, they're like these all this need for these alternative voices isn't necessarily there. They're just like, we are a people who we want to be educated and learn about God, and we love the gospel, and here we go, right? So that's just, I'd be interested to see if there's any validity to that, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think so. I heard of was doing a little. I teach institute at the Tempe Institute
Mm,
part time, and we were doing a course with Keith Erickson
mm,
with the church history library, and he was saying that there was a BYU professor that teaches a church history course for BYU students that are not members of the church,
mhm,
and a lot of them are Muslim members. And one of the things that he said is that he thought was surprising is when they got to the topic of polygamy within church history, he was afraid, and he sat and he planned out how he was going to teach this to somebody that might not understand it, and he realized it was actually a non-issue
They're like,
for
why
them
did
at
you
all.
get rid
Like,
of that? We think that's
yeah.
awesome.
Well, it's like it was a normal thing because of just cultural things or religious things, and I don't know too much about the Muslim faith, but it was just a non-issue for them. He didn't. He went in kind of like walking on eggshells and realized that, oh, this is not a big deal to them. So I do think, to your point, Kurt, that there is
mhm.
um, our U.S. history does bleed into some of our I'll call it biases, or the way that we view certain things within the church and church history. For sure, I think a little bit
Yeah.
of our modernism does seep into the way that we look at history and religion. So
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
as individuals are tempted to be critical of the church and things they do on an institutional level, I think the more I've interacted with people who work for the church or the corporation and things like they're on an institutional level of like running an international church, and so some issues or things that we can get frustrated with, and I never want to dismiss anybody who's wrestling with something that the church is doing, but from an institutional level, it's sort of like, yeah, we're not putting resources there or focus there because we're running international church and church is booming in Africa and Europe's got its own problems or whatever, but we
mhm.
can't like hyper focus on some of these American issues that require the faithful alternative voices when in reality there's something greater happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elder Peter Johnson, right, spoke in the last general conference about joining the church and then finding out about the ban on the priesthood as a
Yeah.
missionary, and the struggle that was for him. I think that the reality is that his experience is unique in many ways to his specific context, right? But if I join the church in Africa, all of my church local leaders are African. All of my area leaders are African. I see members of the Quorum of the 70 that are African. So it's just a different world. Like if somebody were
Yeah.
to say, well, back in like 1978, la 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 la, it's just not the world that they live in now. So like my department, it has a lot of historians, and so we talk a lot about reconciliation with the past and things like that, but sometimes you don't have to like come out and make an official statement or so do some kind of official apology. Sometimes you can just move on and be a better church, and then the fruits of that better behavior make it so you don't need to apologize. You can just be better in the future, and I think that that's the church's approach with a lot of these things. Let's just be better in the future. And if somebody needs an apology, like write us a letter and we'll apologize to you. But
Mhm.
there's no reason to like come out and do something, some big gesture. And honestly, what can you do more than what President Nelson did with the NAACP? It's like,
Yeah.
what other gestures are we supposed to make as a church to like reconcile the past? So, I mean, I understand the concerns people have, but in many ways, the gospel is about a person and their relationship with Heavenly Father, and the institutional church is just there to support that relationship. And I think sometimes we get misdirected, focusing way too much on institutional changes for problems that are just a person and the Lord kind of problem to solve.
Amen, brother. Amen. All right. Any other final stories anybody wants to mention? Or it seems like a great episode. We covered a lot of ground, and even with
Yeah.
3 of us here that like to talk. This is good.
I apologize to all of our listeners who are looking for Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. We didn't talk enough about the characters of that show, or Dancing with the Stars, or other various. I apologize for that. Like,
Wait,
that's
are
what
you
happens.
Are you saying it doesn't matter? What?
Just saying, you've got 3 guys who probably don't watch those shows.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
even know who the characters are.
Right. It's true.
I can tell you, probably someone named Kendra, someone named
Yeah.
Caitlin. There's probably someone named Taylor.
Someone's got a
they
last
probably
name
spell 'em
Christensen,
with-
I think. I don't know.
It's probably spell it with an IEGH.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But hey, it's PR for the church, so good. Bad marketing is still marketing. So awesome. Well, Art, plug your social media stuff, and let's make sure people know where to follow you.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at ArtOlivas1 and on TikTok at ArtOlivas. That's ArtOlivas. Yeah, and on Threads, I guess if you like Threads as well. So
But
And
he's
find
not
Matt
Blue Sky.
Matt
Don't
on
look
Blue
for me on
Sky.
Blue Sky.
So
yeah.
It's me
Well-
and 5 of my friends. We
That's
talk
right.
about all kinds of interesting things.
I got confused by the whole servers. You had to put a server in, and I'm like, I don't even know
Yeah,
what that
I would
is,
I would
so.
tell you my Blue Sky handle, but it's about 105 characters, and it's
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Art, we'd love to have you back if you're ever
I'd
open
love
to
to
that.
come back. Yeah.
And you obviously are digesting the Latter-day Saint news on a daily basis. So it's awesome to have you there.
Yeah.
Like I said, again, you go to patreon.com/thisweekinmormons. All proceeds will go to the giving machine. I'll post a receipt or something, and let's see if we can get to the 777 cheat code, huh? Let's do it. Let's
Sounds
do it.
good.
But, and I'm sure we said something that offended you, so please go to contact at This Week in Mormons, and we'll make Matt respond to it.
I would love to.
It's always fun when Matt gets the mail back. So
Yeah.
he seems to be the only person that gets the mail.
It's
For
because
some
I say this, Kurt, the ever imitated, never duplicated, original Mormon news podcast.
Amen. We'll cut it there.